Hello, can you hear me? I don't know if you want background music or not. It won't necessarily fit what I'm writing. Hello, Salis. Hello, Maximilian. Alright, I play some background music. I was too lazy to make a playlist. And also, like, with being on YouTube, you can't play as much. And I think I can do separate tracks, so maybe next time I'll do that. Set up a playlist to play only on Twitch and not YouTube. But hello, how is everyone? So funny story, if it is a story. If you go on AO3 and look at the fic I'm writing, it says that the current full word count of chapters 1 and 2 is about 9,500, right? I think the exact number is like 9,690 something. So I guess 9,700. I think it's 9,700 words, roughly. And I worked on chapter 3, and chapter 3... This doc is actually the entire story I've written, so I could, like, search. But let's see, chapter 3 is way more than both chapter 1 and 2 combined. I'm doing okay. I don't know if y'all saw on Discord, but I was explaining that I have a bit of muscle weakness today, so I don't feel confident playing the game. I feel like that would just make it worse. So 12,600 words. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Damn, that's a fatty. Yeah, it's a fatty story. Chapter 3. You know what? No, I think... I feel like... I might have to end chapter 3 earlier and make this the beginning of chapter 4. I know I've been doing like a 6-part thing, but I think this case here, I might have to make chapter 3 just this, which is still gonna be huge, but I think that's a better way to end it. Now I think about it, even though I was trying to do like a 6-part per chapter thing, but I don't have to do that, especially since like each part is like way longer than... I feel like this is a better place to break. Alright. So we're gonna do an editing pass. I do have Grammarly. Okay, so I do use Grammarly, but I try to keep it. I'm very particular about how it's used. I don't use the pro version of like, what is it? Having experts review your work and to give you suggestions, and the experts they cite like Stephen King or even dead people like Ursula K. Le Guin. Like, none of that is real, just like making up shit like that. But that was a whole drama last week. That feature was a thing, and I knew that existed for a while because I was advertised it, but I think the authors found out recently, and so there's a huge deal. So they ended that service, I think. But there's still like other generative AI stuff that I'm not into, like rewriting and stuff like that. But the basic grammar, I'll make sure it's not like completely off. But some things, like, they don't really like old ways of speaking too, so sometimes like you see here this is red, but like it doesn't matter, like that's not how they're gonna talk in Regency era, so I ignore those. Alright, so we're gonna dismiss that. This one I'm gonna dismiss. Where is that? Oh my gosh, seriously? You can't see. Can you see? Let me actually move. Let me see if I can move my... I don't know if you can see the Grammarly thing pop up. That's not good. Let's see, what happens if I hide? You see what's suggesting, I wonder? Oh, you can't. You can't see the Grammarly. So there's a part. I'll just read it because I don't know how to make it visible without sharing my monitor, which I don't want to do. But what am I thinking? So basically, there's this part where it says blindly, and there's like a whole spiel where it's like, some readers may consider this use of blindly insensitive. Wording that's not associated with disability may be more effective. What? What? No. Come on. Anyway. Nope, I don't like that. I think that works. Man, I need a Grammarly for that last message. I remember being mad about a few things I wrote. It was like outdated gender speaking, ableist language. Yeah, like what? I think that works for me. No, I don't like that wording. Where is that? Nope. Okay, I'll accept that. Dismiss. Okay, that works. No. Oh. Loser. Uh-oh. I feel like it tries to get you to write like an HR department wants people to write. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Dismiss. Dismiss. Where is that? No, I think that works. What is the difference? No. No. I think it's like this character. Sometimes the dialogue, it's like. Sometimes you want to be. Sometimes a character is meant to speak wordy. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're not supposed to speak grammatically correctly. Grammatically correctly? Is that how you say it? Yes. Now I'm like, am I speaking grammatically correctly? Right? Grammatically is describing correctly and correctly is describing speaking, right? Yeah, I wish it would, because sometimes, like, obviously if there's a clear error, then yeah, but there's one character in the story who's, like, kind of, like, very wordy when he talks, and so, yes, he's not gonna speak in the most effective manner. So no, I don't want you to cut down what he says. Yeah. I couldn't do it with adding commas. Yeah, I agree with that one. Nope. Nope. Come on, kinda, sorta, ain't. Yeah. Now, at least with my story, it's very rare for someone to speak in that way, I think. I don't think contractions didn't exist at all in this time period, but something doesn't feel right doing it, so I just don't. But I try to avoid contractions. Okay. Alright, Grammarly is done. So, I mean, let me read through this. I will not read it out loud. Y'all will have to read it silently with me. But I'm just gonna make sure, because sometimes the grammar check misses things, and then sometimes I want to reword stuff, so we'll see. I can't comment, so that's good. Alright, this chapter is 11,665 words. What is happening? I think I've already done an edit pass of this part, so I'll just skim through it. So a lot of this scene is taken directly from the show, but not much to change here. Though I did change the context. The context is slightly different from the show. Sorry, not me laughing at my own. Oh. Wait, where did I go? Okay. I was back here. So I just noticed my, questioning expression was still there. Okay. To make it clear, people who watch the show will know she said it, but the people who didn't watch the show will not know she said this part, so I'll just say it. Oh my god, I need to stop laughing at my own stuff. Okay. Oh my gosh, this guy is so annoying. I wish Gretchen was here. I think Gretchen was the one who said he was super annoying. I kind of agree. I don't know why I made him so annoying. Okay, the funny thing is, I think there's a writing YouTuber named Elizabeth Wheatley. I don't know if y'all know her. She actually does specialize in historical romance with, I think, a little bit of fantasy. I think it's like low fantasy. And one of the things she talked about was that she's not gonna write any characters that she doesn't have some level of sympathy for. And I kind of agree. It's not like I don't like this character of George Farthing, but I don't like him. It's not like I can't sympathize with him. Like, I know what his motivations are and why he acts the way he does, but he's so annoying. He's like such a dick. Anyway. Keyboard keys, clicking sound, ASMR, yeah! Welcome in, Voyage Warder. Sadly, I'm in the editing pass, so there's not as much keyboard clicking sounds. But when I type something, you'll hear it. Hi, yeah. So, for context, I am actually, okay, I became recently obsessed with Bridgerton, and I'm gonna say, Season 4 was great. Season 4 was amazing. The side plots were a lot better and more integrated into the main plot, which is always a plus. But for me, my favorite couple is always gonna be the Season 2 couple. I think Season 5 will be a close second for me. We'll see how it turns out, but I think it will be a close second. But Season 2 has a special place in my heart. So I'm currently working on a fic where instead of how it does... Because the way Bridgerton works is that it's a historical show, but it's like an alternate timeline. Like, not timeline, alternate, like, version of history where it's not supposed to be super accurate. It's like, okay, let's just imagine a world where the aristocrats of England were more diverse. So you have like Black people and Indian people and Asian people also there among the society, aristocratic society, or a ton, so to speak. And so that's basically the context for the show. But I wanted to explore what it would be like if Anthony and Kate met in a more historically accurate setting, with Anthony going to India as a colonizer. He's still he would be a colonizer in this situation, and Kate being an Indian woman. So that is what's going on. The enemies to lovers is definitely going on here. And I think what offsets Anthony himself, he's still a colonizer, so we're gonna have to deal with that. But he's not allied with the East India Company. He has like a grudge against the East India Company, which I will probably get into around chapter 5, I think, is when we'll do flashbacks. And so, yeah, that's what's going on here. Of course, the premise is also written in AO3, but yeah. And then Kate is a resistance fighter. Avatar, but he goes to India instead of an alien planet. Yeah. Yeah. And then Kate is it's like a lot of the inspiration I have is that there are complexities to the resistance in India. There's multiple kingdoms, there's multiple factions, there's an inability to unite as one against Britain, right? At that time, there's the Maratha Empire, which is actually a confederacy of multiple smaller kingdoms. And then there's the Mughal Empire, which is to the north, and they've already been crushed a lot by the British because they had lost territory like Calcutta at that point. And there's also the Singh Empire, I think, or is it not the Sikh? The Sikh Empire. There's the Sikh religions. So the Mughals are like Muslims mostly, while Marathis are mostly Hindu. And then there's the Sikh Empire, which are mostly Sikhs, right? And so there's like religious issues, and then there's also the aspect of like, it's not like those regimes were perfect too. Like they still had a very high stratified. Which one was Pakistan before the British deemed it a country? I think the Mughal Empire is what included Pakistan. I think that's the country that included Pakistan. But there's also technically another country that also had some of that territory as well, which was under the Marathi Confederacy. I forgot the name of the country, but yes, so it's like there's multiple different kingdoms. But regardless, like another thing to think about is that it's not like those countries were just perfect utopias until Britain came and ruined everything. It's not like that, right? There's still a very highly stratified society. There's the caste system. There's like expectations on women. There's like, you know, their own ways of oppressing the people that are, you know, downtrodden, right? Now, I'm not saying that the British were like saving them by coming there and making their own regime. That's not true either, obviously. But, oh yeah, the motherfuckers hated each other. Yeah, and there's also some things that the British did that you might look back and say, well, maybe that was an improvement. Like, they came in and banned like the burning of wives when their husbands died to like have, because there was a practice in some areas of India, not all, where women, if their husbands died before they did, they would be burned on the funeral pyre, right? So things like that, there were some people in the British authorities that decided, hey, let's not allow that to happen. So there's like some things on paper, you look at it, that's an improvement, but at the same time, you are also talking about a country coming in, acting like they're so much better and trying to erase an existing culture. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of nuance, but also like colonization bad. I still think that, but there's a lot. And there's also like, I know something that I noticed with like Korean, or the story of Korean colonization or Japanese colonization of Korea, is that there are multiple points where the native like authorities fail to protect the people that they should be protecting. So there were points in even that time when Japan was taking over Korea where the peasants were willing to fight for Korea's like autonomy and independence, and then the king even actually commanded the peasants to basically do a rebellion so that they could help him get rid of the Japanese. But when that failed, he kind of ditched them. So like there's multiple points when the king became like a coward and didn't actually back up the people he told to do things. And so with a lack of true like clear leadership, things are gonna fall apart. So there's like mistakes that people make I mean, I mentioned before, like they failed to unite as one against England when they really needed to, because otherwise the militarily is gonna fail, right? But because of internal disagreements, or just like some people doubted that they would even be able to beat even if they all united against England. So there's so many things, so many factors, right, that happened. It's not just like, oh, the British were so much more powerful. That's not true, right? There's so many factors that came into it, especially since the British started the East India Company around 1600. So we're talking about 200 years at this point of them doing shit. And that's a long time that's a very long time. So yeah, it's just this gradual but also very fast decline for sure. All right. So yeah, I saw a Cove post back a while back that only hates. Oh no, that's definitely not true. That's definitely not true. And it's interesting because I feel like I talked about some improvements, quote unquote, that get made because of colonization. Like in Korea too had a very highly stratified society, but because of the Japanese colonization, it kind of was like an equalizer in a way. And so after that, it was like easier, so to speak, to make a democratic society after they drove out Japan, compared to what it would have been. It would have been a longer journey, I think, if they had been a monarchy with that stratified structure and trying to move towards democracy. I feel like that would have been a harder path in some ways. And I'm not saying the Japanese colonization was good. I think it's terrible, especially as a Korean person. But yeah, there's just a lot of nuance with history looking back, and I mean, you can't change it, right? You just look back and be like, okay, so this is what happened, that's what happened, and here's some of the good things that came out of it, and here's the really bad things that came out of it. Yeah, that's definitely a psyop for sure. That's just not true. You already have like the key like religious differences, and there's also like North versus South Indian regions as well. There's just a lot. There's so many things to think about. Yeah. Another thing that's very creepy from, like, 'cause I didn't know this when I was doing research into the British occupation of India and how they slowly took over and over, is how much the British military learned from their failures in America. Because they had the American Revolution, right? From the 1780s to the 1790s. And obviously, like, the British almost won multiple times, of course, but they ultimately lost. But they took what they learned from their failures there and used it in India. And so when I was reading like what their military strategies were in India and how they kind of used like diplomatic manipulation to like prevent the Indian kingdoms from uniting as one to fight against Britain, it just reminded me of like, oh, this is like what they think they should have done in America, because in America they failed to prevent the unification of the 13 colonies as one. I mean, it's true. I think about most of the regular people in the colonies were still not for the revolution, but the people that matter, like the leaders and stuff, they were able to unite as one and coordinate with each other. And so they didn't want that to happen in India, so they tried really hard to prevent that from happening. Oh, this one I usually italicize. Another thing that's interesting that the story that I'm writing is gonna cover is that actually Kate is fully Indian. Now, obviously, she still has mixed heritage in this story because her father is like part Tamil and part Marathi, and her mother is Marathi. Actually, no, her father is part Punjabi and part Tamil, and her mother is full Marathi. So she has a mixed heritage as well, but at least for like from an Indian perspective. But Edwina and their stepmother, Edwina's mother, but Kate's stepmother, Mary, are both Anglo-Indian, which is basically like they're descended from English and Indians. And for a long time, especially throughout the 18th century, it was normal and not stigmatized for English people to marry Indian women, or I think it's mostly English men marrying Indian women, because there was nobody else to get married to if you want to get married, and they didn't ban those kinds of stuff until later. I think around 1780, I think, is when it ended, because Arthur Wellesley, who became the Duke of Wellington, you might know him as the guy who defeated Napoleon in Waterloo. He is the one who was responsible for banning mixed marriages in that sense. But technically, I looked into English law at the time, and English law never actually banned the mixed marriages within England, which is interesting. But there was a social stigma. So it's not like everything was fine, but they never actually officially had anti-miscegenation laws in England, which is weird, but not what I expected. But, you know, it was interesting. Also, by this point, this is 1814. By this point, the slave trade has already been abolished in England. I think that was in 1806 is when it was abolished. But slavery is not abolished yet. But slave trade is. See the oiling up. Well, oiling the hair. So like they're like oiling the hair, each other's hair, because it's like hair care thing. Yeah, this is gonna be very low and steamy because it's gonna be a slow burn. I understand what the content is rather amusing, yeah. This one I think needs this punctuation. There's your ASMR keyboard. Lady Marbury just wants drama at this point, I think. So if you're familiar with the show, there's a character named Lady Danbury, but Lady Danbury doesn't make sense for this historical setting, so I made a XP of her, so to speak, named Lady Marbury. Her personality is very similar, but she's not as, she's... How to explain? She's like she's even more great than Lady Danbury is, I think, in her morality, because I don't know, it'll get revealed, I think, over time, because we'll just know she's a nice person, and she's more progressive than a lot of the other English people there in Bombay, but she still has her own prejudices, and there's still limits, right? Like, she's still British, so that will be interesting as more of that gets revealed over time. Anyway. This one, I might need to reword this. Blathering might be better. Okay. You know, the funny thing is, I mean, you mentioned like I corrected you with oiling up, but I also have a not so clean mind as well. And so if y'all know about the euphemism that docking means, I was trying so hard not to use the word docking anywhere because it would make me laugh. But even just the word dock makes me like. But what else are we gonna call it anyway? I mean, there's port, but like it's not quite a port. It's not really what it is, right? I love it when men think that the woman is over it already, but she's still mad about it and she's gonna bring it up every time she can. And he's just like, why does she still remember that? I was just about to forget it. You may be stupid. I will not explain to you what docking means, okay? If you want to know, I think there is an episode of Dimension 20 Fantasy High, I think is the show. It's a D&D live play show, and I don't remember what season and what episode of it, but it's one of those episodes where Brennan Lee Mulligan, as an NPC, explains what docking is. I have never forgotten it since. But I'm not gonna explain it, it's too dirty. It's way too dirty. But if you wanna know, it's on there. It's on Dimension 20. It's funny because there are moments here, because it's not so black and white. Oh, no! It's not so black and white because Anthony is the bad guy here, right? He's the English guy coming in and basically trying to, you know, take advantage of what's going on. But at the same time, there are moments when he's a bit more woke than Kate, because Kate is still from a privileged class in India. So there are moments when he's just like, why is she thinking in this way? Because she's like, she refers to the fishermen by their like ethnicity, right? She calls them the Gaeulsky fishermen, which is the origin for the slur that I use actually earlier in the chapter with one of the NPCs. The extra background character says, I think it's at the end of chapter 2 actually, where someone says the slur. But Gaeulsky is like the origin of that, and so they just like used it and made it a slur. But regardless, like, she refers to the fishermen by their ethnic group as well. And Anthony's just like, why does it matter if they're Gaeulsky or otherwise? Like, they're fishermen, right? Like, it's not that big of a deal, right? I mean, a part of it is also like for him, just like, yes, he knows the differences between the different cultures, but at the same time, like, it's not that big of a deal, is it? Anyway. But that's what makes Anthony dangerous, though. He's the type of colonizer that's, like, nice? You know what I mean? Like, there's a ones who act like dicks, which on paper seems worse because they're violent and stuff like that, so obviously that's harmful. But there's also the types who come in with a paternalistic attitude. And there are certain things that they do that improve the way of life for some people. But at the end of the day, they're still here to take over and take your autonomy, right? It's just in a paternalistic way. There are so many original characters. You know, I feel this with my own original story. There's like a story I'm writing that's like takes place in a medieval England-esque fantasy world. And you realize that you need a lot more background characters than you thought you did, because otherwise the logistics doesn't make any sense, right? And so I realized not every one of them has to have names per se, but at the same time you definitely need a larger cast than you thought, because with television or movies you can have a bunch of like background characters that don't have names and don't even talk or don't even do anything. It's just like visually there. But with books you kind of have to explain that there are people living their lives, even if they're not the main characters. And since the main characters in that story are like aristocrats too, paperback release one, I know, right? I'm like, it's like gonna take forever, I think. One of them though, I feel like I hope I finish the draft this year. It's like a fairy tale inspired one that I brainstormed on stream like a few weeks ago. That one I feel like is gonna get released maybe in like 2 years, I think, hopefully at the fastest timeline. But the other one, yeah, it's gonna take forever. But basically they're aristocrats, so they're gonna have servants, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure out which servants need names and which don't. So the same thing here, like there's all these characters that need to be created in order to, you know, make it feel like a lived world and not just two people floating in space. This one, I reused lines from this one scene from the Bridgerton show, but the character she's talking to is someone different than the person she talked to in the show. So that was interesting because I wonder if I will do the same with Antony later, because there are points where it's an interesting experiment to see how other characters would react to the same stuff. So for like someone like Antony, like he's not gonna be intimidated by Kate. It's like they're both equal level of intimidating aura, right? And that's what makes them such a good match to each other. But other characters get like they end up feeling small and like scared, or like, oh my god, or don't want to engage anymore with like Kate or Antony, and so that's interesting to see. Oh, this one exactly from the show. I thought I cut off Lumley here because Kate's not listening to him anymore. But yeah, so you know, the first book is the base characters and settings taken from somebody else, and then boom. The second book now has newly introduced original characters and settings stay the same. You know, maybe. But the funny thing is, I don't know if I'll publish. I will like, slice off the serial numbers for this one, because I'm very attached to the fact that they're Kate and Antony. Maybe dumb, but it's an idea. I mean, if a company approaches me and asks me if I want to do that, I would be fine. But I wouldn't do that on my own by myself. But if a publishing company came to me and asked, there's no reason for me to say no unless I'm attached to the idea of it still being on AO3. We'll see. It'll be a bigger improvement, I think, than having the umpteenth Hermione fanfic get their serial number sliced out. I don't know what's up with that obsession with that. Oh my god, whatever. I have opinions. Anyway. I do have another. I already have a second fic idea, guys, though. It's like, it's gonna be more original, and that might actually be easier to slice the serial numbers off. But it'll be Kate and Antony, but in the Roman Empire period. Self-publishing is hell. I'm gonna have a seemingly infinite number of those. Yeah, I don't want to deal with that. Unless I think the fairy tale expansion novel that I'm working on, I feel like that one has the best chance of getting a publishing deal, so I'll definitely be focusing on that. Because the other fantasy series I'm thinking, it was a series for one, which is harder to pitch to both agents and editors, but the fairy tale one is it'll be a solo novel, right? So that one will be a lot easier to pitch, and I think a lot easier to market. We'll see though. I think we'll cut that part out. I don't think Lady Marbury is that wordy. So my second fic idea, I'm like really attached to historical fiction writing for fanfics apparently. Not so much my original stuff. I don't know why. I'm just like, what if Kate and Anthony were in the Roman Empire period? I already have ideas. I won't say what they are, but it's gonna be very different from this fic. This fic feels more like a rewrite of the existing show, but with a slightly more historically accurate context. But the Roman Empire one will be like mostly original. It'll still be enemies to lovers though. Or I guess rivals to lovers will be the more accurate, I think. It won't be full on enemies, unlike here. But this one I already did an editing pass, I'll just scan. Is it worse to self-publish or have this turned into a manhwa? Oh. I think it's better to self-publish. You know why? It's like the market is saturated, so you're probably not gonna make that much money. But publishing an ebook isn't very costly, especially if you don't have any images, right? So the worst case scenario is that you pay a small fee for the printing and like putting it as a listing on stuff, but then you have to market it. But even if you end up not marketing it very well and then nobody buys it, that's the worst thing that can happen, right? You just get lost in the mix. But having it turn into a manhwa would be like... I don't know if I want to be involved in that industry, guys. Like, the way they treat their artists is so bad. I'm like, oh. Consistency, guys. Oh my gosh, thank you, thank you. Well, it's nice though that I do use some of the dialogue from the show, but it helps me get into the mindset of how these characters talk. I think somebody commented on one of my chapters, I think chapter 2, saying like, "Oh my gosh, it's so accurate to the characters and how they are even in totally different context," which made me really happy. Because I think out of character fics deserve to exist, obviously, right? AO3 is just a place for people to publish their stuff, and for fans to read if they like it. But at the same time, I'm personally more a fan of when characters are more in character. It doesn't have to be like they have to be exactly the same situation. But there's like a core, it's like the core part of the character where their motivations need to be at least similar to what their motivations are in the original story. Otherwise, it's just hard. So like something with someone like Anthony, right? He's often arrogant and like, but he speaks very directly. He doesn't speak in very flowery language. Even when he speaks like romantically, it's more direct than I would say some other characters are. And another thing is like a big thing about him is family, right? Family is very important to him. And so no matter what context he's gonna be in, I think that needs to be consistent. Otherwise, that's not Anthony anymore. Same thing with Kate. Like Kate is someone who's going to put others first before herself, but also is eager to be abrasive. Tricks. If anyone is a man, it is him. Yeah, I think Grammarly wanted me to put he. Anyway. I think can is a better verb here. Sorry. I should not want to deal with him at all. My weekend plans? Rest. Rest, rest, rest. This week has been like me going at 100 at work. 100%. I think I started petering out at the end of the day. And I was like, oh dear. Rest is definitely important. Yeah, don't want to do that. Especially with the weather like all over the place. I think on Thursday it was like 30 degrees in the morning and then 80 degrees in the afternoon. It's insane. Like, no wonder people are gonna get sick from like the rapid temperature changes. Oh gosh. No, don't ad break. Don't do this to me. I can only snooze for 5 minutes. Alright. Alrighty. Okay. Oh, wow. She mad. She mad. There's another show that I really enjoyed of Jonathan Bailey, and Jonathan Bailey is the guy who acts as Anthony. Another show called Fellow Travelers. So there is a bit of a Fellow Travelers character cameo if you pay attention. I think only a few people will notice, but like an Easter egg, so to speak, I guess. It's like a reference. Anyway. This one is gonna be interesting. I don't know how clear it is, actually. Let me go back. I don't know how clear it is. Wait, judgment? Question. No, judgment is actually spelled without an E. You can spell it both ways. I think this is the... Yeah, you can spell it both ways. Both are correct. I know this because actually when I was much younger, it was actually not supposed to be spelled with an E at all. But then obviously more and more people spelled it with an E, so it kind of stuck. So that's the newer spelling, but yeah, it's not spelled with an E originally. That one would always get me, because I remember I would always be corrected as a child for putting the E there. I'd be like, okay, that's wrong. And so I remember that now, but then now it's accepted because everybody does it. It's funny, right? Yeah, it doesn't do anything. We're speaking London. Yeah. It's funny because I still use American English, but there are certain points when I feel like it's extra funny to use the British spellings, at least in dialogue. It doesn't make a difference, but it's funny. Put at least something to center. So we're like weaving in and out of the present and the past, and I don't know. Okay, this one kind of is a good transition. And then this one is... Okay, that one makes more sense now. I don't... for a moment. Also, it provides contrast, right? Because there's Kate and Anthony, and they're arguing, and he kind of sees her, funnily enough, almost like a worthy opponent, an equal. So they keep talking to each other. But his interaction with Farthing, it's like he doesn't see him. He's kind of annoyed by George at this point, and kind of looks down on George. Not just because of class difference, but also like George has just been like negging Anthony this entire time, and Anthony knows that. So yeah, that's that too. A little bit of season 1 Anthony. Alright, ad is playing, so I think Voyage Order, you're gonna still be here. I think you got your sub badge. If you're not subbed by for 5 minutes or 3 minutes. Alright. Let's see. She's always curtsying. That's why I hope it's clear. I hope it's clear that, because in the previous section, it's Kate's POV, so she did hear what Cadigan said earlier to Edwina, being like, oh yeah, it's that horse from that one story. But Anthony clearly wasn't really paying attention, so he missed that. This is it. Oh yeah, this is a perfect way to end the chapter, y'all. Okay, can I export? Is it safe for me to export it to AO3? I usually have my friend beta read it first, so I think I'll do that. And I think that was the end of chapter 3. Yeah. I think the funny thing was, you know, the funny thing, I'm stupid, okay? There's a part of me that's very stubborn, and I'm like, it's 5 parts, and so far the other 2 chapters had 6 parts, and so I was like, I want to do 6 parts. But then when I was writing part 6, which you might have seen a little bit of in the other... Oh wait, drinking at the end? No, it wasn't just drinking. It wasn't just drinking. No, there's more, if you want to see. But, I was writing chapter 6. Didn't make it further than that yet. I was doing chapter 6, not chapter 6, part 6 of the chapter that I had in mind. But the more I was writing, I was like, this feels like anticlimactic. I feel like I gotta end here. So I think what I was writing for part 6 is gonna be part 1 of chapter 4. Chapter 4 is gonna be interesting. It's gonna be the end of the first arc, so to speak, and then the second arc is gonna be... it's funny, I'm thinking in manga terms, but the second arc is gonna be the monsoon season arc. So that will be fun, and it'll be mostly original, I think. And then after that, the rest of the Bridgerton family is gonna arrive in India, which is not what Anthony planned. He wasn't planning on staying in India for that long, but the rest of the family are gonna arrive, and they're gonna end up having to stay even longer. So, yeah, he's not gonna be happy. But, oh well. What can I say? You can't stop his mother and his siblings, so, yeah. And then we'll be exploring. I think after the first arc, I might expand POVs, because it'll be interesting to see what Benedict is doing and what Eloise is doing, but I'll see, because I feel like the main audience... Yeah, the main audience for this fic is obviously the Cantony fans, but I think I do have ideas for Benedict. It would kind of be a pity to only tell and not show what the other characters are doing. So, yeah, we'll see. Cause I want to do some side plots too, not just the main plot. But yeah. I think I'm gonna end here because I finished the chapter. Unless, should I? Actually, let me go back to this file. And I'll have to copy and replace. Copy and replace chapter 3's text with what I have in the separate file, but for now, this works. I quest a trip to Tibet. Oh god. That would be, if I'd ever do a historically accurate Benofi fic, it would be Benedictine. Oh, yeah, I can raid. I haven't raided in forever. Tell me the at and I can raid. I went to the ending screen. I wanted to go to Hangout. Okay. Alrighty. I'll go here. I forgot how to raid, I think. Okay. Realist of the reels, yeah. There we go. Alright. Have a great rest of your day or night. And I shall see you next week, hopefully with more Baldur's Gate 3, but we'll see. Okay. Bye!